We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, starting Siman Kuf Mem Dalet and Daf Chaf Zayin Amud Bet of the regular Prince of Mishnah Berura, Sif Aleph. Maran writes, Medalegin benavi ve'en medalegin batorah mi parasha zu le parasha acheret. This is again another yet Gemara from Masechet Megillah Daf Chaf Aleph, that you can skip from place to place in the reading of Nevi'im. It doesn't have to be all in order, but in Torah you cannot jump from one parasha to another parasha. But that's only in two different separate topics. Now we are concerned maybe the mind of the people in the Beit Knesset is going to be confused when you jump from one topic to another. But in the same topic, kegon Haremot ve'ach be'asor, the Yom Kippurim, the Kohen Gadol, part of his job in the Beit HaMikdash was to read certain parashiot for the tzibur there. So what he would do was he would read the parasha of Ach Be'asor, which talks about Yom Kippurim, so Inyanad Yoma is that day's psukim, and which is in Perek Chav Gimal, and then it would jump from it would do Acharei Mot first in Vayikra, Perek Tetzayin, Tetvav Tetzayin, and then it would jump from Acharei Mot, which again talks about Avodat Yom Kippurim. He would jump to later on, many chapters later, same also in Vayikra, but in Perek Chav Gimal here, he would jump a good 7-8 prakim and read Ach Be'asor, which also talks about Yom Kippurim. So that, how was that mutar? Is in same read. He gets up there, he reads this, then he rolls and he reads that. I thought it was asur. Says the Shulchan Aruch, that's only in two different topics. But when you talk about Yom Kippurim and you read a little bit here, a little bit there, that is fine. But that is when you're not reading by heart. You cannot read it by heart. Asur likro shlo min haktav afilu teva achad. It's asur to read even one word if it's not min haktav. You know, there are those poskim who say a katan, a minor, should not be getting an aliyah even for maftir until they are 9 years old. Why 9? Really, chinuch is already from a younger age. You know, smart kids already from 5, 6, 7 maximum. So why 9? I mean, there's Maran Chida that says that. But why 9? Because even though that they know who you're saying bracha for, and they are being educated for proper chinuch, but they may not understand the intricacies of saying it loud for the whole kahal to hear, saying it word by word, and also not reading it by heart. Because a little kid that memorizes the haftarah, the maftir rather, they many times, especially if you're going from page to page, they will be reading it by heart. They're not necessarily, their mind is not following. They have good memories, little kids, right? Most of them, some of them, up to that age, still have photographic memory of some sort, and they just read from memory without paying attention to the actual words. So that becomes a problem, because you cannot read even one word from memory if it's not read from the Ketav. And says the Shulchan Aruch, in Navi you could jump from one inyan to another inyan, no problem. And we do that sometimes in Haftarot, as we will discuss later. But the key is you're not allowed to wait. You have to have everything prepared from before. Right now you start rolling and we're extremely sensitive to not wasting the time of the tzibur. Tircha de tzibura. You don't want to do that. So you're only allowed to jump from one navi to another if you have everything ready. You don't have to wait in a way that the tzibur is sitting there twirling their thumbs, and that's disrespectful to the tzibur. So you're not allowed to do that. That's only in one navi. Aval minavi le navi, but from one navi to another navi, that already in Medaligin. You don't do it Ubetre Asar, but in the Sefer Tre Asar, which is 12 small Nevi'im, right? Some of them are as long as only one chapter, like Ovadiyahu. So in that, in Tre Asar, Medaligin min Navi Navi, because the whole Tre Asar, if you would write it on a klaf, is so short that you could easily go from one to another. It's fairly simple, and therefore you could even jump from Navi to Navi. You don't want it to be drastic from the end all the way to the beginning. That's already a long stretch, but you could do anything short of that, you could do. So says the Mishnah Berura, Medina, this is known, you don't have real set psukim etched in stone for every parasha, which haftarah you have to read. That's why, by the way, we have chilukim between different communities. Some of the parashiot, the minhag of the Ashkenazim and Sfaradim is different, right? They have different minhagim when it comes to what haftarah they read for every parasha, right? In some parashiot, Sfaradim have like this, Chabad have like that, Ashkenazim have different. Because there's no set in stone set of psukim for the read of every haftarah. As long as it is similar and fit for that parasha, the inyan of the parasha, that's fine. As we're going to discuss in the halachot of haftarah in Siman Taf Kafchet, we're going to discuss this right before the halachot of Pesach. That's where this is discussed over there in the Ramah, and this teaches us the mutar lemaftir ben avir dareg min parasha zu leparasha acheret. You could jump from one parasha to another parasha, and that's the minhag in many of the haftarot that we add psukim from parashiyot acherot. Right? That's why you have the haftarah of erev Rosh Chodesh. At the end, you say, Machar Chodesh, you add some psukim, or Shabbat Rosh Chodesh has its own thing. Sometimes we add psukim from one Navi to another, and that's, again, related to this topic. But we can't jump in the Torah. And what does that mean? The important detail over here, says the Chafetz Chaim, is if you have the minimum of the psukim that has to be read in that kriya, for instance, on Thursdays and Mondays, the minimum that has to be read is 3 aliyot and 10 psukim minimum. So then, or Yom Tov, that you have to read 5 people, you have to call 5 people up. You don't want to call them skipping around, but you want to do it keseder. Shema titpalbel. What does it mean that you're going to confuse the people? The people in the Beit Knesset are going to be confused. Lefish divrei Torah divrei azharot ve'onshin u'mitzvot. The divrei Torah, much of it is things that the Torah warns against, certain wrongdoings, the consequences of such actions, and so on. It has to sit with people. When you read it keseder, it all makes sense. It all enters their hearts properly. But when you jump around, you read one pasuk here, one pasuk there, it becomes very confusing. It's not easy to think about it and process the information. After all, you have to understand, some people nowadays, they relate to Kriyat Torah as a ritual that we do. It's not a ritual. It's supposed to be, instead of learning Torah, it was instituted for a communal learning that is the minimum that Chazal felt it's a necessity for a community to learn together. So you learn Torah in public together by somebody getting up there and reading it out loud, everyone listening to it. That is learning Torah. So you're supposed to actually be paying attention and learning. We'll, of course, discuss later on whether or not you could be doing your own thing while reading the Torah, but That's certainly not the right thing. Yiras Shamayim should be listening to the words of the Torah, taking them in, processing that information, and that's our way of connecting on a constant basis with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it says the Mishnah Berura, Mashenkin ben Avi. That's not necessarily the same thing in Navi, because it's not the same message. It's not necessarily stories in Navi, and it's not necessarily something you have to ponder, think, take in, and process. Kegon acharemot ve'ach ba'asor, the times that is the same topic that you're going from one parasha like acharemot and ach ba'asor, which the Kohen Gadol does. Even though that you have many prakim between these two parashiot, שזה פרשת אחרי, זה פרשת אמור, one of them is פרשת acharemot, the other one is פרשת אמור. אפילו אחי כיוון דתרוויו מעניין יום הכיפורים, but because both of them are in the same topic of Yom Kippur, מותר לדלג ברכתם ביחד. You could skip from one to another and read both of them back to back. והוא הדין מה שנוהגים בתענית ציבור, same is with תענית ציבור. When you do ויחל משה, what do? Between the first and second aliyah? You roll 2 amudim of Sefer Torah. Have you ever paid attention to that, by the way? You start ויחל משה, and you read Kohen, and Levi starts from Vayifzol, which is 2 columns later in the Sefer Torah. So what's the heter for that? Why is that mutar? Because it's the same thing, right? From Vayechal Moshe, we jump to Psol Lecha. The same reason. They're really considered one topic. The Kaf HaChaim writes that even according to this reason, that they are one topic, and one topic will be mutar, and therefore it's mutar to jump from Vayechal to Psol Lecha and to read further. But at the same time, the minhag is to be machmir, and one aliyah reads Vayechal, and the second aliyah reads Psol Lecha. This way people don't get confused. Because imagine if you're reading in the middle and the guy just jumps in the middle of aliyah from one to another, that's more confusing. So this is the Kaf HaChaim. Even though that would be mutar, we don't do that. We try to do it as clear as possible in such way that you have one aliyah, aliyat Kohen would be Vayechal Moshe, and Levi would be Psol Lecha. So it says the Mishnah Berura. There are those poskim, by the way, that hold that the reason that we are allowed to skip on Tanit Tzibur is not because it is one inyan, but it is because it's 2 different aliyot. It's Kohen and Levi, therefore it's mutar anyways. That's the backwards of the same topic. But nevertheless, let's just do one more piece of Mishnah Berura over here. V'hu shelo yikra, so lomar delekach yitiru ledaleg v'liglol hasefer leparasha hashniya afterhu min karmilta. The reason that is mutar to stop and roll the Sefer Torah to the second parasha, as the Shulchan Aruch said, and this is Mishnah Berura Od Hei, that the reason that's mutar shelo yikra al peh, not as long as you don't read it by heart, is coming to tell you that it's mutar to jump from one place and roll the Sefer Torah to the second parasha, even though that is clear, in order not to come to read the second one Baal Peh, because that would be asur. Now, this is something again that we have discussed before: the isur of doing things Baal Peh, the isur of doing things by heart. And says the Mishnah Berura over here, the restriction on that is there should not be in a way that the sibur, the people are waiting waiting around, and that will be tircha de sibura. And that, says the Mishnah Berura, bizmanehem hayu regilin letargem. In the time of Chazal, the Baal Koreh would read, and then someone would translate actually the psukim to people between every pasuk and the next. And it's coming to teach you over here that the two topics should be close enough that quickly you could turn over to the second place as the Turgeman, as the translator is explaining the previous pasuk that you read. Kol kachat shelo yishhe hadilug yoter mikideh sheifsok haturgeman she'en kavod. So basically, there's no wait for the tzibur. The tzibur listens to the pasuk, and then the turgeman, the translator, starts explaining it in their language, whatever language they spoke. And you quickly turn it in such a way that once he's done explaining the pasuk, you are already ready to read the next upcoming parasha, upcoming pasuk. She'en kavod latzibur she'amdu b'shtika v'yamtinu. It's not kavod for the people to just be standing there and waiting. And the poskim write that in our time, because the obvious question would be, based on this, our time we should be asur because we don't translate. So people are going to be waiting around anyways. She'en reglin targem nami shari. Says the Mishnah Berura, not so. Even though that we don't have the translation nowadays, still is mutar kevan shekol ha'aftarot ktuvim bizmanu bekuntres b'fnei atzman. Because nowadays everything is written in a kuntres. We have a sefer haftarot, or in the chumash you have them back to back. What exactly you're going to be reading is printed right in front of you in a very convenient way, and therefore, even if you have to go back and forth, it's very easy to do it quickly, and there's no real wait for the tzibur. They could do it quickly without any delay. And therefore, even nowadays, it will be mutar, and on the contrary, it should really be mutar. Even from two different sifrei nevi'im is so quick because you don't have to roll, right? When you have a sefer, you could just go through it, very quickly from the beginning to the end. It doesn't make more than few short seconds. So says the Mishnah Berura, on the contrary, it should be really mutar to even go from one sefer of navi to another sefer of navi. Even if they are the two ends of nach, still will be mutar in our generation, which we have printed chumashim and printed ready haftarot and sefer haftara and all those things. And the Shcharach said that you cannot jump in one navi to another navi unless it's tereh asar, which is very short. It's easy to roll. That's very difficult to roll from one sefer to another. That's already too much time, and people lose it, right? In one inyan, one topic, you could jump from one sefer of navi to another. And tereh asar, even though that there are 12 different nevi'im, they're all considered like one navi. Because they're very short, as we mentioned. But you can't go from the end to the beginning because you're going backwards, and even if it would be close to each other, would be confusing, and this becomes a big machloket in the poskim from navi to navi, which Be'ezrat Hashem we will maybe discuss in the days to come. We'll continue this in the next shiur. Imir Hashem. Chazak u'Baruch. Are we done with the